Hi guys, it's Lynn here. Hope you're having an amazing day. Now today guys, I'm going to show you how you can prune the dead parts from the Euphorbia Medusa plants. Now this particular euphorbia is called Euphorbia flaganelli. I know, what a tongue twister. And I'm actually going to put the correct wording and spelling of this plant across the screen down the bottom, because I'm really terrible at pronouncing these names, guys. I'm not going to embarrass myself any further. But it is one of the Euphorbia Medusas, and there's a few different varieties of Euphorbia Medusa. They're usually the ones that have these really wacky sort of vegetation coming out of them. I'm not quite sure, we can't really call them leaves as such, but they're amazing, and they usually form like a big tuber at the bottom. And got a few different ones, got about 3 different types in our Euphorbia family of the Medusas, and this particular one has the lovely sort of long vegetation all growing out of it, and sometimes they hang down, sometimes they form little balls. But the reason why they're called Medusa is for the obvious reasons, because of its sort of appearance to like the Medusa. So it is quite wacky. Now, I had a few people ask me saying about their Medusa plants when they sort of the old vegetation sort of dies back like here. This is perfectly normal. As it forms the new growth coming up here, the old will die back and it forms this big tuber. Now, some people prefer to sort of plant this with the tuber deep down. I personally like to leave the tuber showing, and I'm just going to show you what I've done there. The reason being is that euphorbias, these type of particular euphorbia, if they're planted too far deep down with their big tuber root, they can rot, especially when they're dormant. So I personally like to leave the tuber showing a little bit. If they're a little bit lopsided or wobbly, put a little bit of piece of stone or crystal just underneath there to stop it from falling over, and it gives it a bit of support. But in its natural habitats, it probably be grown a bit deeper. But in this case, you know, when you're growing them in cultivation, they're growing in a pot. So I like to leave it a bit more exposed, so there's no chance of damp or rot coming into that big tuber root. And obviously, as the plant grows on, it drops these dead little parts here. Now, euphorbias are sort of like a South African succulent, and it can be a little bit more confusing to normal succulents, and certainly compared to cacti, because unlike a lot of the cacti and a lot of the many other succulents that like a winter dormancy, a lot of the euphorbias, including this particular euphorbia, does sort of carry on growing throughout the fall, the autumn, and sometimes even into the winter. Particularly, you often see it with many other succulents as well, with aloes and that. They are winter growers. So when it comes to stopping to water your cacti and succulents, some of the winter growers do still like to be kept slightly watered because they're still growing. And with euphorbia, nearly all the euphorbias, there's many different types of euphorbia succulents. Some are hardier than others, but we bring practically all of them inside the house for the winter, because they don't like to be kept at a lower temperature than 50 degrees Fahrenheit, which is 10 degrees Celsius. The reason being, if they're kept colder than that, they can be prone to rot, and if they don't rot, they can certainly damage the foliage. So if you have a Euphorbia succulent, and so there's many different types, then do make sure you don't overwinter it any colder than 10 Celsius, which is 50 degrees Fahrenheit. Just a little tip there. And as I say, it depends on what type of, where you live in also in the world. But we're here in Ireland, in Northern Ireland, which is cold and damp. So we make sure that we overwinter these indoors. And these type of euphorbias are often wrongly classed as cacti, because euphorbias often resemble more of a cactus than actually a cactus does, if that makes sense, because of obviously how they sort of look. But they are very different, and the care is also different with euphorbias than cacti. As I say, a lot of them are winter growers, and certainly fall growers, autumn growers, so they don't like to be kept. No harm is going to happen if you don't water them. They just won't show their best. But euphorbia is a completely different sort of care to a lot of other succulents and cacti, and I'm going to make a video in the coming weeks on how to care for Euphorbia succulents. And as I say, there's many different types of Euphorbia succulents in this genus, so they all have slightly different care requirements, but I'm just going to do a general care guide on them, so look out for that, guys, because so many people get them mixed up with cactus plants, and the care is different, especially during the winter. And we're coming up to the winter now here. unless you're lucky to live in the southern hemisphere. But because we are coming up to the winter, I really want to do a video on their care, because I'm hoping it will help a lot of you out and share my experience there. Anyway, sorry if I'm waffling on about this and you just want to get straight to the point. This is actually, obviously, as you know, how to prune here. Now, what I'm going to be doing here is, it is so easy to prune these plants. What you do have to be careful about with Euphorbia is you don't, you know, just go and prune a healthy cutting here. And the reason being, it's stupid to do that. And also the fact they do give off a milky sap. And with the milky sap Euphorbia gives off, it can be damaging. It can be a skin irritant. There's rumours that it can make you go blind and all this. I don't necessarily know if that's true or not, but it is an irritant, so you do have to be careful, and certainly don't go touching your eyes. I'm not going to be touching any of these healthy green stems, so I'm only removing the dead parts, so there should be very little milky sap, if anything, coming from this. So if you happen to prune any healthy part for any reason that you want to, I don't know why, but if you did, make sure you have a spray water with you to spray the spray it as soon as you cut it, so you don't get any of the milky sap onto your hands, and certainly not in your eyes, so be careful. This I'm only going to be removing the dead parts, so it shouldn't be happening. Now, there's two ways of removing this. You can either just literally twist them off like that, comes off, and there should be very little milky sap, if anything. It's dried, so there shouldn't be anything. And then I've got some scissors here, just in case there's any bit hard to come away, and I'm literally just going to turn it like that, and it just comes away. Now, you don't have to even remove these dried up parts. You can leave them. You know, in nature, probably the winds and things like that naturally, and even birds would pick up things. These probably naturally get taken away on their own, or they just leave them. There's really no harm, but it's purely aesthetic. I think it looks a lot tidier to remove them, and also by removing dead parts of leaves and things like that on your plants, it makes the chance of insects less likely, because bugs, particularly things like mealybug, which, you know, Euphorbia is very prone to, as all cacti and succulents are. It's the biggest pest. They do like to hide in parts you can't see, and in dried up leaves like this is the parts you don't really see. You tend to look at more the healthy growth. So the less hiding spots for bugs, the better, I think. And here you go, just turn. That's really all you have to do. I mean, just gently twist it like that, pull it away, and don't probably even need to use the scissors. Hold it at the base there, and you want to make sure it's completely dry. If it's just starting to go brown, leave it until the whole of the little, I'm not sure whether you'd call it, not a leaf as such, but vegetation, I should say, vegetation, I should say, has completely died back at the base like that, and just gently twist it, and it will come away, and that's it. Don't be doing it if it's just starting to go brown, because, as I say, if you do that and twist it, you're going to get the milky sap. And also, if you leave an open wound, it can cause infection to come in, especially during these colder months. So you just want to do the dried up bits, and that's really all you have to do. As I say, this is optional. You know, the plant is not going to see that's still a little bit not dried yet, so now I can probably cut that back as it's, yep. Purely optional. You don't have to do this pruning. You can just leave it. I know lots of growers just like to leave their plants to do what they should be doing, but I think personally it's less chance of bugs hiding, and it looks so much tidier. We have this on our kitchen windowsill, so it looks nice if it's all pruned and tidy than if it was all bright brown and all dried up everywhere. And just gently turn it around here. As I say, just wanted to make this little video because I noticed it needs a bit of a pruning this morning. I thought, oh, a couple of people have asked me about the Medusa ones as well, particularly. They said they noticed that do you remove the brown, the brown dried up foliage? And I say, well, it's optional, but personally I like to do that. And I said to that particular person that I'll make a video when I next do it, and this is probably months ago now, but if you happen to be watching this, hopefully this will help you and anybody else as well, should you have these wacky type of euphorbias. And there's a lot of other euphorbias would drop their foliage like this as well, as I say. And that's really it. It just looks a lot tidier. And twist it off. And that's it. Then you can use a clean pair of little scissors to get close. There's a little bit of the milky sap coming away there, but that's not harmful as such because it's only slight. There you go. It looks a lot tidier, doesn't it, guys? And don't you think it's a wacky plant? I think it's gorgeous. Now, if you want to see what this amazing, weird and wacky plant looks like when it's in flower, well, it is absolutely gorgeous. It forms the most beautiful little yellow flowers going all the way around it like a little crown, and it's all covered the top of it in these gorgeous yellow flowers. And by the way, it's actually starting to come into bud very slightly on here. As I say, this is usually a spring flowering euphorbia, But it also flowers in the fall, in the autumn as well, because as I say, a lot of euphorbias and a lot of succulent plants in general do carry on growing into the fall, and some even into the winter. So different to a lot of the cacti. And this particular one sometimes flowers again in the fall as well. And I'm so happy to notice it's got little flower buds coming on it, which is wonderful. So stay tuned for future video, probably in the coming weeks, of this beauty in probably being winter flower by then. But if you want to see what this gorgeous plant looks like in flower, then do check that video out, because it is beautiful little yellow, perfectly formed flowers, ever so pretty. And as I say, it's quite a wacky plant, isn't it? I love the weird and wacky me. So guys, I hope you found this video useful, and you know what to do should you need to prune your Medusa. So guys, thanks so much for watching, and I want to send you loads of love. Oh, by the way guys, if you want to know, learn more, or you want to know more about how to grow cacti and succulents, or you're new to growing these weird and wacky plants, do please check out my website, does anyone say www anymore? desertplantsofavalon.com. And I'm going to put it across the screen. Please do check that out guys, and hopefully you find some tips on there useful. So I want to send you loads of love, heaps of happiness, and tons of plant power, as always, from across the Emerald Isle. And until the next video, bye. Bye.